Jiglad Mosizak. Again, story goes that there have always been little people living in First Nations communities or reserves or whatever, or among natives. And they'll show themselves to different people, and they seem to have the ability, and nobody knows where they live, nobody knows where they come from, they just are. And so I remember when I was a little girl, I was about 12, 13, we had moved into a house across from where I grew up. I was the first house, like a little cabin. We all lived there. There was 9 kids, my mom and dad, living in this little cabin with an outhouse. One Christmas Eve, we moved into the larger house. My dad got some money, and he built this, which we thought was a huge house. We lived on the first floor. The first floor was the only floor that was finished. But there was like my parents' bedroom was what became my dad's den, and the living room was our bedroom. So like there was bunk beds, 2 sets of bunk beds, double bed, like there was beds everywhere in this little living room. But anyway, so this one night, in order to go to the bathroom, like you had to pass through the dining room and then the kitchen, and then the bathroom was like adjacent to the kitchen. So this one night, and I don't know why I'm so nosy. Anyway, I happened to look out, and it was winter. It was almost blue when you looked out, and with the light reflecting from the moon on the snow made it look like it was blue. Anyway, happened to look out, and right across from where we lived was a post, and the post was like cut at an angle, pointing downwards. So right on at the tip of this angle was a little man sitting, and he was sitting. His little legs were crossed, and it looked like he had a hat. And I didn't see his face, but I just thought he looked like a little old man. Couldn't see his face because the moon was behind him, and all you could see was the outline. But he was just sitting there with legs crossed, and he looked like he was looking at our house. Anyway, I was like, boing! I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, I have to go tell my mom. So then I shook my mother, and she was in the other room, and I said, Mom, there's a little man sitting out on the... And I told her where it was, like where that post had been cut. Here's her. You have a fever, go to bed. I was like, but Mom, like there's a little old man. No, you have a fever. So anyway, I looked at that little old man again. He was still sitting there, and I went back to my mother. I said, he's still there. Go to bed. Anyway, so I went back to bed, and I was like, okay, maybe I didn't see it. But I did. And it's you could see that he had a little hat, like kind of like a scrunched up hat, just the outline of him, and his little legs were crossed. And I swear his little legs weren't any longer than a foot, because like maybe 12 inches. And he was sitting, I can't believe that he sat on that point. That must have hurt. Like I did, I checked him twice. Ma wouldn't come. That's my little story about Jiglad Mosizak. But then my mother didn't say anything. She told us. She used to get up, and before the house was built, I was still a little girl in the cabin, and she used to get up and nurse babies. There was always a baby in the house that was being nursed. And this one night, she got up, and she'd sit on the side of the bed and nurse the baby, and she happened to look out, and she said she saw 2 little people. One had his arm up against like a post, and the other one was digging. Either he was digging something up or burying something, don't know what. And I never told her that she had a fever, but I believed her. But this was before I saw a little man on the corner. And I don't know, like what causes people to see these little beings. At Woodstock, there's a place, it's called Bulls Creek, and they say that these little people used to carve different things out of rocks, and they would foretell the future. There was a war, and they said just before the war broke out, and I'm not even sure if it's the First or Second World War, but they found a little cannon on the ledge, and different things that happened would show up. Anyway, because they were telling us about that. And people are always like superstitious anyway in our community, so people say that they would see these little beings